right, so we're going to be talking about amethyst healing properties, correspondences, and meanings. This is going to be a really comprehensive geological kind of conversation, metaphysical conversation about probably every kind of amethyst you can think of, every other kind you've heard of, everything I know about amethyst I'm going to throw in here. Question of the day, if you would please go ahead and answer this in the comments below right now. Was amethyst your first crystal? Yes or no? Taking a little poll here. I'd like to know that. All right, so let's get into the content. Amethyst is a really popular mineral because we all love this beautiful, striking purple color, right? It's usually, for many of us, our very first crystal, or what attracts us to the crystal realm. And amethyst is really just the purple variety of quartz. This one's shedding a few pieces. It's quite friable. So it's quartz, and we'll explain what makes it different than clear quartz in a little bit. So amethyst is spiritually enhancing, another reason why so many of us love it, and it's a favorite. It's also spiritually protective as well. So that's a property of it that's very important. If you need to be or want to be spiritually protected or physically protected for various reasons, that's a different topic for a different day. Or you just want to go into a healing session or maybe a meditation and just be spiritually protected while you're doing that, then bring amethyst along with you for the ride. It's all about, again, that protection, divine connection. It works closely with the third eye chakra and the crown chakra, all about calming energy. So it's great for bringing into the bedroom or a healing space, and release of addictions. Okay, that's another important property or correspondence of amethyst. Like I said, it enhances the work of the third eye. It works closely with the pituitary and pineal gland, and it helps you connect more deeply and more easily with your spiritual self. So connecting you more easily to your higher self. It assists us with doing that and having that stronger connection to our spiritual side. If you're feeling like you're lacking in that area, work with amethyst. Bring it into your life. Just wearing it or having it in your space or meditating with it or doing healing sessions with it or doing a crystal grid with it. Because a lot of times people ask, they're new to crystals, and when I say work with it, they're like, what do you mean work with it? What does that mean? So those are just some examples. It enhances and invites that spiritual energy in. And I like that it really invites in that energy of being more spiritual, but also while being protective at the same time, because a lot of times we forget that side of things. So it's got that added benefit of being very calming. So it's, again, a favorite to work with while meditating. So if you need a boost of willpower while trying to break free of any sort of addiction, whether it's an addiction to social media, or while I'm talking to you here on social media, or to soda, or to drugs, or to alcohol, or to anything, whatever it is that you would like to break that addiction, or you feel like it's impacting you in a negative way, or what we consider a bad habit, amethyst is a popular stone for working with, for doing that. And again, bringing those relaxing, calming energies to you while you're working on that. Now, as far as with meditation, amethyst in general, but there are some that work better at this than others, but in general, any amethyst helps you to focus more on your meditations and eliminate or get rid of that monkey mind while meditating. It's not going to eradicate it entirely, okay? But it's going to assist, a tool and a support. That's what crystals are, I feel. An ally, a tool, a support. So, you know, all that stuff that happens during meditation, and it's supposed to happen, but you want it, the goal usually with meditation, not all of them, is to empty your mind and just allow those thoughts, instead of grabbing hold of them or having them grab a hold of you and getting stuck in them. Next thing you know, you're all about the thought instead of the meditation. You allow those thoughts to just float away like a leaf on a river and allows your brain to accept the benefits of not thinking of all those things, or at least not thinking of them deeply. So amethyst entrains with our electromagnetic field, or some of us call it our aura, so that we become calmer and vibrate or become a vibrational match to its frequency. Okay, so that you are in alignment with it. And that happens with any of the crystals that we're working with. But if what you're looking for are the correspondences I just talked about, then you want to become a vibrational match while working with the amethyst and bring it into your electromagnetic field, which extends most strongly. Some say it extends out infinitely, but it extends most strongly within a 4-foot radius. Or if you want to just say, use your arms about that far out and around your body in all directions. Okay, that's the whole point in working with crystals, is to become a vibrational match, get into an alignment with their vibrational frequency. Okay, so let's talk a little bit of geology. I was going to say geology. A little geology and identification of different types of amethyst, or amethyst in general, and then I'll get into the nitty-gritty of different types of amethyst. Okay, how does that sound? All right, a lot of people ask me how to tell the fake from the genuine. So yes, amethyst can be faked. I'm going to give you lots of basic geological information here to help you figure it out. But if you really want to dig in and you're interested in learning more about identifying your crystals, I can't give that all to you here in a live stream. I highly recommend that class elective that I talked about, Crystal Savvy. All right, if you go to my website, you can find that there, but I'm going to be giving 2 of those away later. So I really get into the identification of crystals in there. And so you learn how to empower yourself to do that for yourself. So amethyst comes from many different locales around Mama Earth, which is what makes it really more of an affordable crystal, and one that's least likely to be faked because it's so widely available. There's almost no reason to fake it, but yeah, some people are, but I don't consider it a widespread issue, okay? The most popular locales for amethyst is different parts of the US, Mexico, Canada, Brazil, and Uruguay. Yeah, there are other places, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but those are the most popular locales. There's huge amounts of amethyst in Brazil and Uruguay in the basalt flow vugs or voids. There's like these where maybe like a pocket of air was there and amethyst grew in it, and in the fissures. Can you imagine that? I remember there was a scene in the movie The Core, right in the dead middle center of that DVD. I remember this because I used to teach my science class this, and I used to fast forward to that one section in the DVD. They go down under the earth, and it's imaginary. Nobody's done this, but they go into a deep, deep vug or a basalt flow void that's just filled with amethyst crystals, a giant, huge void, and they walk in, and oh, it's so cool. All right, so these huge deposits in South America and Africa also, I didn't mention that, in Africa, there's enough material there to keep amethyst's price, like I said, affordable, and so it's less likely to fake it. But I have seen some deeply dyed, I'm sorry, in my opinion, disgusting amethyst that you just rub your fingers on the back of it and the dye comes off in your hands, and that dye dissipates very quickly. I have yet to figure out exactly what kind of dye. I think I heard it was food grade dye or clothing dye that they use on some geodes, milky quartz geodes or something like that. And it's on the back of the matrix, and it just rubs off on everything, and it fades really, really quickly. All right, so like all quartz, amethyst is a Mohs hardness of 7. All quartz is a 7, so relatively hard. It's not the hardest like a diamond, but you know, it will scratch things if you're going to move it across glass and stuff like that. Now, where does this beautiful violet color, look at this gorgeous cactus quartz, where does this color come from? Well, it comes from trace amounts of iron inclusions in quartz. And you might not think that because, you know, if you think of rusty iron, it's a rusty color. So, but this color comes from iron. And there's just trace amounts of it. That's all that's necessary. And then there's another component that's necessary. You got the trace amounts of iron in the quartz and intense radiation. So gamma rays from radioactive sources like radioactive elements in the earth that are in the host rock. All right, so the first step in amethyst getting its purple color, it's a series of steps, begins during the crystal growth. And at the very beginning, when it first starts to grow and it's gathering up that trace bit of iron, and then after the crystallization begins, the gamma rays begin irradiating the iron, and voila, you get this purple color. And the most intense purple color is often seen at the apex. We'll talk a little bit more about this guy. I don't know if you can see it there. Let's see. Well, I should have brought another point out, but see how it's more pale at the bottom? This is ametrine. We'll talk more about this. See how it's pale at the bottom and really deeply colored at the point, the apex? All right, so that's where your most intense purple color is usually going to be seen. It's like the amethyst comes in so many different colors. We got this really deep Uruguayan amethyst. It's like 50 shades of purple, right? There's a wide range of colors. All right, so let's talk about the various types of amethyst. So we've got the geodes. And the geodes are like the one behind me back there. Can you see him? Let me see. Yeah. Well, it's got lights on it, so you can't see it too well. But let's dig into what I've got here. This is a geode. So a geode's going to have, it's going to be a smaller hollow or a vug, a void, filled with the crystals. And that's known as a geode. All right, this really isn't a geode. Let me get into why that is. This was probably cut from a large geode, all right? That's definitely a geode. Sometimes they're known as these big guys as cathedrals because they look like big steeples on a cathedral. And they're often cut in half and cut open so that it displays the crystals inside, okay? Now, if the crystals inside are really small, like here, see, they're really little, then we call this a druze. A lot of people call it druzy. The proper geological term is druze. The E at the end is silent, but a lot of people call it druzy now, so that's just become part of the common nomenclature, so we'll go with it, right? Now, my amethyst geode that I have back here, these are great for living spaces because they're large and they can emanate a lot of energy. Large geodes like these are wonderful for radiating good amounts of energy into a space and really making the space feel good. But be prepared, they're pricey. The larger they are, the pricier they are. I mean, it's more rare to find them large. It's costly to do shipping, you know. I mean, just to get people to move this piece around is a whole ordeal. So, and that's not even one of the biggest ones, right? There are much bigger ones. All right, let's talk about Veracruz amethyst. I drink a lot of water, but I'm going to drink extra today, guys. All right, so here's a Veracruz amethyst. You'll notice they're very, very light in color. They have excellent clarity. These are known for being really good third eye developers if you're looking to develop your third eye chakra. And they help induce theta brain waves, which are a higher amplitude, lower frequency brain wave than alpha or beta. Beta is what we're in all the time. It's the brain wave I'm in right now. You're probably in right now. If you're in a more relaxed state, you go into alpha, but theta is a higher amplitude than that, but lower frequency. So daydreaming, when you're in a daydream state, that's often a theta brainwave state. It's that state of mind you go into like when you're in the shower and you download those really good ideas, or maybe if you're driving or walking, you get into a very positive mental state when you think about it, when you're in those places and you kind of like zone out, you get into this positive mental state and you get to download these really amazing ideas, or maybe while you're daydreaming, that's theta brainwave state. If you want to be in that state more, Veracruz amethyst is your buddy. It's the reason why is we think it's because it helps to awaken and kind of boop, 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 poke the pineal gland, kind of wake it up. It used to be in my experience, a go-to crystal for calming the mind and an excellent stone to work with when meditating to get rid of that monkey mind. However, with the recent cosmic energy shifts, and I talked about this in a blog post a couple months ago, this doesn't seem to be the case anymore. For me, it allows more flow of ideas. So more that theta brainwave state, not so much of the calming of the mind, but if I'm looking for that flow of ideas, even during a meditation, Veracruz Amethyst is my go-to for that. Maybe it's because the amplitude in the crystal itself is a bit higher now due to these cosmic energy shifts. I don't know. I don't have the answer, but it's something that I've noted and I've noted with others. So is this true for you? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. I would love to know. I have asked though a lot, and it seems like it is the case for the majority of us. All right, so Uruguayan amethyst has this characteristic grape jelly, deep dark color. Sometimes it even looks black. It's the same energy as other amethysts, but more intense. So for those asking if color intensity makes a difference, in this case, I would say yes, a slight difference. I really love the energy of Uruguayan amethyst. So it's got this really deep, dark, royal purple color, very vibrant, very rich. The energy is just so much more effective, I find, from these deeply colored Uruguayan amethysts when it comes to geodes. All right, and then I showed you this one before, spirit quartz, also known as cactus quartz. All right, if you're looking for relief from OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, this is a good one to work with. Fear in general, because OCD is like is a symptom of a fear, right? So also if you're looking to connect with your higher self while also getting rid of fears, clearing the pathway of that may come up on your journey to up-leveling yourself and connecting with your higher self, work with spirit quartz or cactus quartz. It's also great for purification, again, protection, and evolving yourself spiritually, like any amethyst is. Okay, I don't have this one here. Many of you asked about Super 7. Sorry, I'm hitting the mic here. Super 7 is not really a type of amethyst. People think it is because it has the general color of amethyst. It's actually 7 different minerals all conglomerated into one stone. All right, the 7 minerals are, let's see if I can remember, amethyst, goethite. Those are the only 2 I can remember. So I'm gonna look at my notes here. Chalcoxenite, clear quartz, rutile, smoky quartz, lepidocrocite. So it's amethyst, chalcoxenite, clear quartz, goethite, rutile, smoky quartz, and lepidocrocite. So it's not a type of amethyst. It includes amethyst along with 6 other minerals. All right, so I'm not going to get deep into Super 7. Okay, now next I'm going to tell you about ametrine, chevron amethyst, Brandbergs, and caring for your amethyst. Yeah, there's a couple you need to know about how to care for your amethyst properly. And we're going to do some Q&A at the end. And remember, if we got to 100 shares of this live stream, so please click share and share it out into the newsfeed, I'm going to randomly choose 2 of you to gift with that free registration to my Crystal Savvy Crystal and Mineral ID class elective. That's a value of, I believe it's $297, that class. It's got no prerequisites. You don't have to have taken my course. It's wherever you are in your path. It's good for everybody. You don't need to be like advanced or anything. But if you want to know how to ID minerals, how to tell fakes and frauds from the real thing or misrepresentations, that's the class for you. Okay, you need a couple of supplies, a jeweler's loop, I think an LED light. I forget the other stuff. But anyway, it's a really cool class. People love it. All right, and if you'd like to create a sacred space of your own with my guidance on how to use crystals to do that, I have that free e-kit for you, and you get subscribed to my newsletter. Go to hibiscusmoongift.com, hibiscusmoongift.com to get that. All right, let me drink some water here. We'll get started on the rest of the crystals. Okay, I don't know how people teach and not drink a ton of water while they're teaching. I envy that quality. I really do, because I've always been like this. I drink like gallons of water while I'm teaching, but that's what I love to do. I've always taught one thing or another, and that's always been a thing that I have to do. All right, let's talk about ametrine. Now, let me see how this is showing up. Yeah, can you see that orange in the back there? There's like that iced tea hint. It's hard to see when you're not in the sun. Okay, hold on. All right, I thought I was getting a text about something here. Looks like everything's going okay here. All right, there's that little bit of orange. Yeah, there we go. When I put it on the white, you can see it. All right, this is ametrine. Now, ametrine is hard to find. It's not an easy one. It combines the energy of amethyst and citrine, okay? Natural citrine. And it's great for if you need assistance with making decisions. Ametrine is great for that. And just clearing your mind. It's not only good during a meditation, but to make a clear, sound decision, you want to clear your mind, right? And if you're looking to clear and cleanse your spirit, ametrine is great for that. But it's always my go-to when there's any kind of decision that needs to be made, ametrine. All right, chevron amethyst. I couldn't find another one in my collection here that showed the chevron off better than this. But there's always like a V-shaped pattern, a banded pattern of white in the amethyst. And it alternates amethyst and milky quartz. That's what that V shape is. It's made out of milky quartz. So what this is demonstrating is a really intense color zoning. And color zoning is obvious in many different types of amethyst, as we'll see here in a second. It's the color zoning, this V shape, is expressing the crystal's hexagonal sacred geometry because it's a six-sided crystal. All quartz is basically, it's got that basic hexagonal sacred geometry. So this color zoning, the very intense color zoning of the purple and then the milky quartz, is expressing that inherent hexagon shape or the sacred geometry within the crystal. Okay, all the same metaphysical properties as regular amethyst. So, but you know, I always say I'm giving you these meanings and correspondences. You really need to experiment with them for yourself and see what they tune into and bring up for you. For you, maybe chevron amethyst is very different from a regular amethyst geode. You really have to experiment and try it out, do the work yourself. Okay, I know a lot of us want to just get the answer from somewhere else and just go with that, but I can't stress enough, you really want to do it for yourself and not rely on the books and the courses, even if it's my course. You want to do the work for yourself and see how it works with you personally, because we're all individual and we're all slightly different and we all bring a different flavor to the work that we're doing. All right. Let's talk about Brandbergs. I'm going to show you a few different ones here. This one's got some very light coloration in it, very, very light. Alternating zones of usually smoky quartz with amethyst. Let me show you this one here. This one's a more deeply colored one. And often there's phantoms. So you see the color zoning, the phantoms, the points inside. That's showing the punctuated growth rates. So the crystals slow down for a little bit. The coloration, whether it's the smoky quartz or the amethyst, kind of collected there in the area, and then it started growing again. Okay, so phantoms are very common for Brandbergs. Oh, you can see some really good phantoms here. And hydro bubbles of water are very common for Brandbergs. There's some other commonalities. I talk more about those in my class electives. Look at this one though. Look at the back. Look at the fairy dusting on that. Isn't that amazing? And this one has a key too. Do you see this little hexagon shape right there? Can you see that? That's called a key. So there's common characteristics with Brandbergs. There's lots of crystal formation characteristics. There's windows, there's phantoms, the anhydro bubbles, time links on what we call S faces. I talk all about that in the Crystal Savvy class. Very common. They're very glassy with very good clarity. There's an anhydro bubble in here too, but I don't know if we're going to get to see it. Maybe some of you can see it moving around in there. I see it. Okay, so these are known as master healers. Great relief from anxiety and powerful addictions go to a Brandberg. Okay, and it is Brandberg, not Brandenburg. I've seen it misspelled even in some crystal books. It's named after the mountain where it comes from in Namibia. Brandberg's help, and this silver circle on there is where I found an anhydro bubble. I don't know if you can see it moving around in there. If you're feeling energetically exhausted, Brandberg is your crystal for that. Also, broken heart, suffering from broken heart, which I'm sure all of us have at one time or another. Brandberg crystals are great for that. Okay, let's talk about caring for your amethyst now. So the color of many deeply pigmented crystals like amethyst run the risk of fading by being exposed to direct sunlight or any bright display lights, especially if you're displaying your crystals under UV lights over a long period of time, can cause your amethyst to fade. All right, it seems like UV light is specifically the fading culprit for collectors. It can be natural UV light from the sun too, or man-made UV light or halogen lights. If you're using halogen bulbs, that's another culprit. You want to keep your deeply pigmented crystals away from any kind of UV source. So keep it away from the windowsill, keep it away from the sun. The brighter the light, the faster it fades out our crystals. So sunlight and halogen are the worst. Also, certain crystals I noticed fade more easily than others. Brandberg's fade easily. This one is one of two that I keep in a crystal curio cabinet, and I used to very easily see the phantom. Now I can barely see it. So I've noticed the Brandbergs fade more easily than others of my amethysts. Long-term low-level heating, like the sun, changes amethyst to essentially a colorless quartz, rather than like fast heat, like from an oven, which would turn it into citrine. So basically, you want to watch out for the sunlight and the UV lights and all of that. So even if you can keep them in the dark, some collectors go to the point of putting them in a little case, covering them up with some cloth, and keeping them out of the light all the time if it's a very special piece. Some amethyst pales out, like I said, really, really quickly, and some very slowly. It depends on the oxidation state of the iron. Remember I said there's trace amounts of iron, so these little molecules of iron are known as ions. It depends on their number of electrons. So it depends on the oxidation state of the iron ion that's specifically in that amethyst. But you can't tell what type of iron ion an amethyst has before you buy it, right? That's getting really heady, and I still haven't figured it out. I just think that Brandberg has a specific kind of ion that's more unstable, that lets it or allows it to fade more easily. It seems to happen most with quartz whose color is caused by irradiation, whether it's natural or synthetic irradiation, like pink quartz, not rose quartz. I talked about that in my rose quartz blog post. That's another one that fades really, really quickly. So amethyst is caused by irradiation. So that one is one that's vulnerable. Also, smoky quartz that's caused by synthetic irradiation is another one that fades really, really fast, but that's another topic. So be careful when leaving your crystals out in your garden or your windowsill. I do know from some students that leave their amethyst out in the garden all the time. They haven't faded at all. Again, it depends on that iron ion, and I still don't know of a method to figure out what kind of iron ion it has. So I would say be on the safe side. Even the intense sunlight behind the window in your living room, if it can reach your crystals, might do some damage. Don't keep them on windowsills. You know, even though some of the ultraviolet components are mostly filtered out by the window glass, I would still be erring on the side of caution and not keep them in direct sunlight or UV lights. And that's true for all quartz varieties whose color is bright. So smoky quartz, citrine, pink quartz, not rose quartz. All right. Some ask me if LED lights can harm our crystals. And I'm not going to say no way, no how, but there's no science that backs it up. So at the moment, my answer is no. LED lights should have no effect on the molecules unless you've purchased, there are special UV LED lights. So UV, ultraviolet, we want to keep that away from the amethyst. Darker or lighter amethyst, I was asked, does it have an effect on the crystal's energy potency? I don't feel color intensity usually has anything to do with the energy form or the type of amethyst, except for that Uruguayan amethyst. I do feel like it's a little more intense than regular amethyst. Because look at Veracruz amethyst or Brandbergs that are very light, yet can be very light. They're not always very light, but they're quite powerful. So usually I don't think that the intensity of the color has anything to do with that. All right, crystal blessings, everybody. Bye. Have a great day.